Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. This is normally something that I would do live, but at the moment I don't have the ability to go live. I'm working on it. Shout out to the Patreon members that are trying to hook me up, but lives will come back soon, fingers crossed. But I wanted to put something out to address the comments and questions that folks have been sending over like the last day regarding tariffs and the possibility that tariffs could negatively impact the comic book industry. And all of this is coming on the heels of the bankruptcy by Diamond. So I wanted to do this video almost like a live stream. It's going to be unedited, not going to have a whole lot in the way of graphics because, again, normally with the software I use, I would throw graphics up so you guys can see it. But I at least wanted to put something out there for you all to think about. So for those that have not been paying attention, the President of the United States has put some tariffs in place, specifically 25% tariffs imposed on Canadian goods that are coming from Canada into the US. He has also put tariffs in place for Mexico and also China. In response to what President Trump has done, the Prime Minister, Prime Minister of Canada has imposed some tariffs on us, 25% on American goods imported in response to what our president has actually done. And it's actually a two-phased thing that they've put out. So first, what I will say without getting too political is that the tariffs that are being put in place by the U.S. are designed, I think, to motivate these other countries to do something that the U.S. wants to do. And as soon as these countries take those steps that the U.S. wants, the tariffs are then put on hold. So there's the possibility that that could be what happens with Canada and with some of these other countries. It's already happened with Mexico, so we shall see. The other thing I will mention here is that Canada has put some tariffs in place. As I mentioned, two-phased approach, tariffs of 25%, and they've put these tariffs in place for 1,256 items expected to cause an impact on the American economy and companies. This includes food and drink, automotive parts, clothing, cosmetics, luggage, furniture, tobacco, lumber, paper, and more. My point in reading this is that it does not appear to include comics or periodicals directly, right? So that's important to mention. The other thing that's important to mention is I believe Canada's tariffs have actually been put on hold already. So the Canadian stuff appears to be off the table for the moment, all right? So that's a good thing. Okay, so as I alluded to, the U.S. tariffs on imports from Canada are designed, I think, to get some kind of reaction from Canada, i.e. do what I need you to do. So those two could be put on hold for the moment. They have not. But could this impact comics? Yes. Based upon an article from Bleeding Cool, it will not impact comics that are coming in this week because those items have already been shipped. And I'm trying to see if I can find the section here where they actually make that comment here. It says the decision by the U.S. government to make their tariffs against Canada, Mexico, China kick in Tuesday means that comic books already printed in Canada and going through shipping process are about to skyrocket in price. Misspoke on that part. So, oh no, here we go. Not for this Wednesday. The comics have already left Canada for the U.S. and plenty of them are already in store. Again, that's according to Bleeding Cool, but there is the possibility that the tariffs could impact those comics that are coming next week, which I think is the week of, let me see if I can get my calendar out. The week of the 10th, the week of Valentine's Day is when we might see. There's a possibility that you could see an increase in the cost of comics. It's important to mention here that there is a cover price on comics, but I don't think comic book stores are required to sell them for cover price. So if they have to pay more, they could, of course, charge more. But here's an important thing that Bleeding Cool also covered. They talk about Transcontinental, which is one of the largest publishers in Canada, that prints a lot of comics for DC, Marvel, and also some smaller publishers. They say here that Transcontinental steps up to offer the comic book industry 90 days tariff-free. So the tariffs imposed by the U.S. of 25% appear to be absorbed by Transcontinental. So once they go into effect, whenever that is, potentially the week of Valentine's, Transcontinental is going to absorb those costs, allowing comics to still come in at their normal price, which means that LCSs should not be charging us more because they are not paying more for those comics. So 90 days is a fair amount of time, theoretically, for whatever issues between the countries to work themselves out. Again, I'm putting the tariff in place because I want you to take an action. If you take that action, then I will push the tariffs back. Transcontinental is going to pick up the slack in the near term. Now, what's interesting here, of course, is Transcontinental is owed $250,000 by Diamond, which again is in Chapter 11. So they are a pretty large publisher, for a pretty large printer from what I'm seeing here, but they cannot continue to absorb the 25% indefinitely, right? So fingers crossed that the countries kind of get themselves out. My hope here is that it is coming across that this is an issue, but there is the potential that this will not be an issue for a couple of different reasons. In the near term, because Transcontinental is absorbing it, and in the longer term, fingers crossed that the countries kind of work themselves out. My hope is that you all are not necessarily falling for the sky is falling posts that are going up, that comics are suddenly going to skyrocket, because based upon what I'm seeing, that should not be the case. There's some other things that I'm not ready to go into just yet, because I have a video coming out tonight at 6 o'clock that makes some points, and maybe I'll follow up with my additional thoughts on why I think that this is going to be okay. But for the moment, I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. Shout out to those folks that send me the messages asking me to comment on certain things, because you never know what it is that people are interested in until they sometimes put their hand up and say, hey, what about this? What about that? So I appreciate you all. I appreciate you watching this video right now. And if you are watching it and you haven't yet smashed the subscribe button, I want to personally invite you to go ahead and do that now. Again, I have a video coming out tonight at 6 p.m. If you need me, I am here, and I am not too hard to find. Take care.
I used to have big city dreams, but that's a small town thing. I thought the big city life was the only way you could be crowned king.